In this 2-hour English lesson, you're going to learn all the vocabulary that you need to get your English to that advanced C1 level. This lesson will begin at the A1 beginner level and progress up to that C1 advanced and even that C2 level. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Let's start with phrasal verbs. They are so important to help you understand natives and to sound natural. So first in this lesson, you'll learn the most important phrasal verbs. To run out of something. This is when you use all of something and therefore have none left. We commonly use this with food items. For example, milk. We ran out of milk. This means you have no milk left because you used it all. Now notice ran, that's the past simple of the verb run. The conjugations are run, ran, run. You could also say we've run out of milk in the present perfect because it's a past action with a connection to the present. In a business context, you might say we're running out of time. So here, notice in the present continuous, we're running out of, and then the something is time. It means you're in the process of having no time left. So if the meeting ends at 11 o'clock and right now it's 10:50, you can say, we're running out of time. We need to end the meeting in 10 minutes. You can also use this with ideas. We're running out of ideas. Or patience. I'm running out of patience, which means I'm in the process of having no patience left. To bring up. This means to raise a topic for conversation or to raise a child. For example, he brought up an interesting point at the meeting, which means he raised an interesting point. He shared an interesting point. He brought up an interesting point at the meeting. Here, brought is the past simple of bring. Now remember, this also means to raise a child. When you raise a child, it means you care for and nurture a child from the time that child is an infant until that child is an adult. That is to raise a child. For example, she's bringing up 3 children on her own. So this means she's raising 3 children on her own. To look after someone or something. This means to care for someone or something for a period of time. So generally we don't use this if you're caring for someone or something permanently, like when you bring up a child, you're caring for that child permanently. But if you're looking after a child, it sounds like you're doing it temporarily for a period of time. For example, my son's 16, so he looks after his younger brothers while I'm at work. So my son, who is 16, cares for his younger brothers. But he's not bringing them up because he's not doing that permanently. He's caring for them for a period of time. The time while I'm at work. So maybe 2 hours a day between after school and when I get home from work. My oldest child, who's 16, cares for my younger children, his younger brothers. We also use this with things, to care for things. For example, can you look after my plants while I'm on vacation? If someone asks you to look after something for a period of time while they're on vacation or while they're traveling, they're asking you to care for it. So that's a lot of responsibility for you. You better not kill my plants. To take off. This means to remove something commonly from your body or to leave. In the sense of removing something from your body, when someone comes to your house, you might say, please take off your shoes before coming in. So you want to keep your floors nice and clean, so you ask them to take off their shoes, to remove their shoes. Now, in the sense of to leave, we commonly use this with flights. For example, my flight was supposed to take off at noon, but it was delayed. So if my flight's delayed, it means it's now taking off later than scheduled, later than expected. And when your flight takes off, that's when your flight leaves. It leaves the ground, it leaves the airport. So you can use this one every single time you're traveling and daily to talk about removing something from your body. To turn on. I'm sure you know this one, but just to make sure, this means to activate a device, to turn on a device. This is something that I ask Siri to do daily, and you might ask Siri or Alexa or whoever your personal assistant is, hey Siri, turn on the lights. Or you might say, can you turn on the air conditioning? It's really hot in here. So think of all the different devices you have in your home, in your office, and even on you everywhere you go, and you can use turn on to mean activate. And if turn on means to activate, well then what's the opposite? What's the phrasal verb for to deactivate a device? Of course, it's turn off. Turn off a device, deactivate a device. Again, something you can ask your personal assistant to do. Hey Siri, turn off the music. And this is also something that parents have to remind their children to do quite frequently. For example, make sure you turn off the lights before you leave. Get up. This is one you can, of course, use every single day because when you get up, it means you wake up in the morning. For example, I get up at 5:50 a.m. every day except Sundays. On Sundays, I get up at 7 a.m. So I sleep in on Sundays and oh, I enjoy that. What about you? What time do you get up? Share that in the comments. We also use get up to mean to rise from a lying or sitting position. So let's say you work in an office that has some really comfortable couches, and you might just be relaxing and lying on the couch. But then your coworker says, quick, get up, Rob's coming. And Rob is your boss. And you don't want your boss to see you just lying on this couch when you should be at your desk working, right? So in this context, it doesn't mean that you were sleeping on the couch. It simply means you were in a lying or even a sitting position. So we talked about how take off is used to remove something from your body. So if you're hot, you can take off your sweater. But what if you're cold? What's the phrasal verb to add something to your body? Do you know? It's to put on. To put on is to wear clothing or accessories, so you can think of them as adding them to your body. To put on also means to apply something like makeup or sunscreen, to put on. For example, you could say to a friend, it's chilly out. You should put on a sweater. Chilly means a little cold. So maybe your friend is going out in a t-shirt, but you say it's chilly out. You should put on a sweater. To give up. Hopefully a phrasal verb that isn't in your vocabulary, to give up. Because this is used when you stop trying to do something. For example, don't give up just because you made a few mistakes. That's part of the learning process. I'm sure some days you feel like giving up learning English, which would mean stop learning English, but don't give up. However, there are some things you should give up, like a bad habit. And give up is also used when you stop a bad habit. For example, you should give up smoking, which means you should stop smoking, permanently stop smoking. So you should quit smoking. You should give up smoking. Permanently stop smoking, quit smoking. But you shouldn't give up learning English just because you make a mistake or just because it's taking a little longer than you expected. Don't give up. To look for. When you look for someone or something, you simply try to find, to locate someone or something. For example, I looked for you at the conference, but it was busy. This means I tried to find someone, a friend, a coworker, someone I know. I tried to find someone at a conference. I looked for her or him, but I didn't find that person because there were too many people at the conference. The conference was busy. Of course, we use this with everyday objects like our keys, our phone, our purse, even something simple like a pen. Can you help me look for my keys? This is another way of saying, can you help me find my keys? Can you help me locate my keys? Because I don't know where they are. Can you help me look for my keys? Now that you're more comfortable with these phrasal verbs, how about we do that exact same quiz again? Here are the questions. Hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play to see the answers. Here are the answers. Review them as long as you need, and when you're ready, hit play to continue. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, the movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Let's keep going, and you're going to learn 10 more phrasal verbs at the more advanced level, and I'm going to quiz you to make this lesson a little more advanced. In this video, first you're going to test your knowledge to see how well you know these 10 phrasal verbs, and after I'll explain every phrasal verb in detail. Let's get started. Question 1. She's just really good at basketball. Now, I'll only give you 3 seconds to answer the question, so hit pause, take as much time as you need, and when you're ready, hit play. She's not showing off. Question 2, it's hard to meditate when my kids keep barging in. Question 3, we've been friends for 20 years. I'm not going to let this I'm not going to let this come between us. Question 4. It's amazing how fast the company after the pandemic. The company bounced back. Question 5. I need to call the garage. My car's been all week. My car's been acting up. Question 6. His speech didn't. The urgency of the situation. His speech didn't get across. Question 7. Jess can close any deal. We can count on her. Question 8. I can't give you the day off tomorrow, but I can by letting you leave early. I can make it up to you. Question 9. They said the price is too high, but give them a week, they'll come around. Question 10. My boss always makes me stay late. I don't know why I put up with it. How'd you do with the quiz? Share your score in the comments below, and don't worry if it was difficult because now I'm going to explain every phrasal verb in detail. Number 1, to come around to an opinion or an idea. And this means to change your opinion or to see a new point of view. Now notice the sentence structure because we have 2 prepositions, around and to, and then after to, we need something. We need a noun, an opinion, or an idea. For example, I came around to the new job after I heard about the benefits package. So remember, this means you changed your opinion. So previously, you didn't want the new job, but now you've come around to it. So you've changed your opinion. Now you want the new job because you heard about the benefits package. We commonly use this without the preposition to and without specifying the something when the something has already been mentioned. For example, at first, I didn't want to move to Boston, but I came around after I visited. So notice, I didn't say I came around to something because the something had already been mentioned. So I came around to the idea after I visited. Number 2, to get across a point or a message. And this is when you clearly and effectively communicate a point or a message. For example, make sure you get across that the project is over budget. So if you're having a meeting with a client and your boss has this very particular message or idea, the project is over budget. And your boss wants you to communicate that in a clear, effective way. Your boss wants to make sure you get that across. Now, we also use this when you're talking, and the ideas aren't really coming out very well. And after a while, you stop and you say, what I'm trying to get across is, and then you state your point. What I'm trying to get across is, the project is over budget. Number 3, to show off. This is when you deliberately display your skills or abilities in a way to impress other people. Now, this is frequently used in the negative. Don't show off. Don't show off. But there's definitely a time and a place when you want to show off. For example, when you're going to a job interview, you shouldn't be modest. You should show off your skills and abilities. You should talk about all your awards, your accomplishments, your degrees, the compliments you've received. You want to show off all of your experience to the interviewer. So an interview is the perfect time to show off. Also, if you're going for your IELTS exam, you don't want to be modest with your knowledge of the English language. You want to show off your abilities by using a range of grammatical structures and a range of phrasal verbs and idioms and expressions. You want to show off to the interviewer. Number 4, to count on. Now, this is exactly the same as to rely on or to depend on. So you have 3 different phrasal verbs, all with on, that mean the exact same thing. And this is, of course, when you trust someone or something to complete a specific task or objective. For example, I can always count on Selma to stay late. So you can trust Selma to complete the specific task or objective, which is to stay late. And remember, you could replace this with rely on. I can always rely on Selma. Or depend on. I can always depend on Selma. Now, we frequently use this in a question response. For example, can I count on you? Can I count on you to close the deal? And then you can reply back and say, absolutely, you can count on me. Number 5, to come between. Now, this is when something disturbs a relationship. And that relationship can be a professional relationship, a social relationship, romantic, family relationship. It can be any kind of relationship. For example, Jacob and Marcus were best friends until Sylvie came between them. So that's the image you could have. They were close, Jacob and Marcus, but then Sylvie came between them and now they're divided. Sylvie disturbed their relationship. Now, it's very common for a girl or a guy to come between a relationship, but it doesn't have to be a person. It could be that Jacob and Marcus were very close, but the promotion came between them. The new job came between them. Their family came between them. Their politics came between them. Their religion came between them. It could be anything came between them. Money is a good one as well that comes between people in relationships. And remember, you can use this in any type of relationship. Number 6, to put up with something or someone. And notice this is a 2-preposition phrasal verb, put up with. Put up with. And we use this to say that you tolerate bad behavior or unwanted behavior, to put up with. For example, I don't know how you put up with your boss. I don't know how you tolerate your boss. Now, of course, we can be more specific and specify the action that the boss does. I don't know how you put up with your boss's constant criticism, for example, or your boss's distasteful jokes, for example. I don't know how you tolerate it. Now, we commonly use this to say, I'm not going to put up with, and then the behavior. I'm not going to put up with your constant criticism any longer. Number 7, to bounce back. Now, to bounce back, this is when you recover or recuperate. Now, you can use this when you recover from a negative situation in a business context, like for example, a bad sales quarter or a bad product launch, for example. But it can also be when you recover or recuperate from an illness. So you can use it in both those situations. For example, in a workplace situation, you could say, I don't know how we'll bounce back from our loss in Q2. So I don't know how we'll recover. And then you could have a discussion. How can we bounce back? Does anyone have any ideas on how we can bounce back? Now, in terms of recovering or recuperating from an illness, you could say, it took me a while to bounce back after my surgery. So it took me a while to recover, recuperate. Number 8, to act up. This means to behave badly or strangely. This is very commonly used with parents describing the actions of their young children or even their older children. My son keeps acting up, behaving badly. But we can also use this with devices and objects. For example, my computer keeps acting up, behaving strangely. My computer keeps acting up. I hope it doesn't break. Number 9, to make it up to someone. This is quite a long one, so pay attention to this sentence structure. To make it up to someone. Now, we use this when you try to compensate for a wrongdoing. For example, let's say it's your best friend's birthday and you can't go for whatever reason. So this is the wrongdoing, not going to your best friend's birthday party. Now, if you want to compensate for that wrongdoing, you could say, I'm so sorry, I can't make your birthday party. I promise I'll make it up to you. I'll make it up to you by taking you out for a nice dinner. I'll make it up to you by going to the movies with you. I'll make it up to you by buying you a really nice present. So those are the ways you're going to compensate. Now you might be wondering, what is this it? The make it up to someone? We use it with it because what you're trying to compensate for has already been explained, so you don't have to say it again. Now you can use this in a business context. Let's say you went over budget on a client's project and you might say to your team, how are we going to make it up to the client? How are we going to compensate for our wrongdoing? The wrongdoing is you went over budget. And then maybe someone would suggest we can make it up to them by offering a discount or offering a free product, offering an extra service. So those are how you're going to compensate for the wrongdoing, to make it up to someone. Number 10, to barge in. When you barge in, you enter a place, a location unexpectedly, and you interrupt whatever's taking place. For example, I was in my office working and this kid just barged in and handed me his CV. But later, I hired him. So by saying the kid barged in, it implies that he didn't have an appointment, he wasn't expected, he just barged in unexpectedly and he interrupted whatever I was working on. But in this case, it was successful because he got the job. Now that you understand these phrasal verbs a lot better, let's do that exact same quiz from the very beginning again. Here are the questions for the quiz. You need to complete each sentence using the correct phrasal verb. So go ahead and hit pause now and complete the quiz. Here are the correct answers. Go ahead and hit pause and see how well you did. Now that you're getting comfortable with phrasal verbs, let's move on and you'll learn 21 words that will impress everyone when you use them.
I'm impressed. Good for you.
Number 1, dazzling. Dazzling. That's a fun word to say. Repeat after me. Dazzling. This is an adjective that means brilliant and impressive, leaving a lasting impression. I could say, you look absolutely dazzling in that outfit. And notice how I added absolutely to make it even stronger. Or I could say she started her presentation with a dazzling smile. So what do you think of my smile? Is it dazzling? If it is, then put dazzling in the comments, because putting it in the comments will help you remember it. Put dazzling in the comments. Number 2, caveat. Repeat after me, caveat. This is a noun and it's a warning or cautionary statement. These words will impress native speakers, but there's one caveat. There's one warning. You need to pronounce them correctly. So repeat after me, caveat. Or you could say he agreed to be interviewed with the caveat that he could review the article. Don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Number 3, alleviate. Repeat after me, alleviate. This is a verb that means to make something negative, like a pain or a problem, less severe. For example, taking a walk can alleviate stress. It can make it less severe. Or practicing your speech beforehand, maybe for a job interview or a presentation, can alleviate your public speaking anxiety. It can make it less severe. So make sure you practice. Number 4, a fun one to say, conundrum. Repeat after me, conundrum. Conundrum. This is a noun and it's a confusing and difficult problem or question. He faced a conundrum. So notice that verb is face. You face a conundrum. He faced a conundrum about which job offer to accept. So maybe he has this job offer, but then he calls you as his friend and he says, it's my dream job, but if I accept it, I'll have to move overseas away from my family. And then you can reply back and say, well, that's a conundrum. That's a difficult problem you're facing. Number 5, frivolous. Also fun to say. Frivolous. Repeat after me. Frivolous. This is an adjective that means not having any serious purpose or value. We commonly use this with money. He spends all his money on frivolous items, on items that have no purpose or value. Or you could say they argued over something frivolous, something meaningless, no purpose, no value. Hopefully you're thinking this lesson isn't frivolous, which means it does have purpose and it does provide you value. So this lesson isn't frivolous. Would you agree? Put that's right in the comments. Number 6, perplex. Repeat after me, perplex. This is a verb that means to confuse and worry someone by being difficult to understand or solve. For example, the patient's symptoms perplexed the doctors. The doctors found the symptoms difficult to understand and then solve, so it caused some worry or confusion. Or you could say, I was perplexed by these words, the words in this lesson. Notice that passive structure. I was perplexed by these words, but Jennifer helped me understand them. Hopefully you agree with that. Number 7, nostalgia. Repeat after me, nostalgia. This is a noun and it's a feeling of pleasure, but also slight sadness when you think about things that happened in the past. Some people feel nostalgia because nostalgia is a noun, so you can feel nostalgia. Some people feel nostalgia for their school days. So thinking about their school days in the past, it brings them pleasure, but a little bit of sadness. Can you relate to that? Or you could say, hearing that song again filled him with nostalgia. you can be filled with this noun nostalgia. Number 8, ooh, this is a good one, ominous. Repeat after me, ominous. This is an adjective and it means giving the impression that something bad or unpleasant is going to happen. We commonly use this with the weather. You could look up and say, the dark clouds are ominous. So what's the bad thing that's going to happen? A severe storm. Or you could say he had an ominous feeling about the meeting. Something bad is going to happen. Maybe the client won't sign the contract or he won't get the answer he wanted. Number 9, acquiesce. Repeat after me. Acquiesce. Acquiesce. This is a verb and it means to agree passively. So to agree, but you don't really want to. You don't want to initially, but you eventually say, okay, I acquiesce. For example, I wanted to go to Hawaii, but my husband wanted to go to Iceland. I acquiesced. So my question for you, my smart student, is where did I go on vacation? Did I go to Hawaii or Iceland? Put your answer in the comments, Hawaii or Iceland. Put it in the comments. Number 10, consensus. Repeat after me, consensus. This is a noun and it means general agreement among a group. Remember, to have general agreement, you don't need 100%. You need 50, 51, 55. That would be the minimum amount for a general consensus. For example, we couldn't reach a consensus. So the verb you use is to reach a consensus. We couldn't reach a consensus on where to go for vacation, Hawaii or Iceland. We couldn't reach a consensus. Or you could say there is a consensus that the proposal needs revisions. So this means that the majority of people agree that the proposal needs revisions. Number 11, itinerary. I'm always surprised when my students, even my advanced students, don't know this word because it's so commonly used. Repeat after me, itinerary. This is a noun and it's a detailed plan or route for an event or vacation. For example, have you planned your itinerary for Iceland? Because remember, I acquiesced, so I agreed with my husband who wanted to go to Iceland even though I wanted to go to Hawaii. Did you understand that? Did you get that? So have you planned your itinerary for Iceland yet? So the itinerary would tell you what activities you're doing on each day of that trip. Or you could say, we have a very busy itinerary, all the things you have planned. Now, don't confuse this with the next word, number 12, agenda. Repeat after me, agenda. Most students know this, but don't confuse it with an itinerary because an agenda is a list of items to be discussed at a meeting. So you can ask, what's the agenda for the meeting? Or what's the first item on the agenda? Or in emails, it's very common to send or receive an email that says, please find attached the agenda for today's conference call. Number 13, lucrative. Lucrative. Repeat after me, lucrative. This is an adjective and it means producing a great deal of profit or financial success. We use this specifically with money. You could say photography isn't lucrative. It doesn't produce a great deal of financial success, but it's my passion. Or you could say there was a general consensus, most people agree, there was a general consensus that the partnership would be lucrative, would result in money, financial success. So that's a great one to have in your vocabulary. Number 14, contingency. Do you know this one? Contingency. Repeat after me. Contingency. This is a noun and it's a future event or circumstance which is possible but cannot be predicted with certainty. So it's possible but not guaranteed. Here's how this word is most commonly used. We need a contingency plan in case of an emergency. So this is a plan about a potential circumstance that's possible but not guaranteed. And the plan, the contingency plan, will tell you what to do in the event of an emergency. Or you could say, we must prepare for all possible contingencies. Number 15, tangible. Repeat after me, tangible. This is a noun and it means real, something you can touch, show, or even experience. For example, the project resulted in tangible benefits. I can show you the benefits on a chart. You can touch the benefits such as money, or you have an experience such as doing something because of those benefits. It's tangible. Or you might say, we need tangible evidence to support our claims. You need evidence that people can touch, see, or experience. It must be tangible. This is commonly used with assets because there are tangible assets such as machinery and buildings. You can touch them, you can look at them, they're real. Number 16, incentive. Repeat after me, incentive. This is a noun and it's a thing that motivates or encourages someone to do something. So for example, I need to give you and all of my students an incentive to subscribe. I need to encourage you to subscribe by providing something of value. So the fact that I upload videos every single day is your incentive to subscribe. So make sure you subscribe, like this video, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. I have other incentives for you once you subscribe. Number 17, metrics. Repeat after me, metrics. Metrics. This is a noun and it's a standard of measurement. For example, the size of your vocabulary is one of the metrics of fluency. The number of words you know, which is why I'm teaching you 21 words so you can improve this metric, this measure of performance for your fluency. As you know, on your IELTS or other language exams, they judge you on different areas. Those are the different metrics. Or if you want to improve your fluency, a good question to ask is, what are the key metrics of fluency? And that will tell you what areas to focus on. Number 18, redundant. Repeat after me, redundant. Redundant. This is a noun and it means not or no longer needed or useful. For example, some tasks have become redundant due to automation, AI, ChatGPT. Or you could say typewriters are now redundant. They're no longer used, although they were once the only device that people had to write with. So can you think of something in today's modern world that is now redundant? My example was a typewriter. Share your own example in the comments below, just for fun. Number 19, streamline. Streamline. Repeat after me, streamline. This is a verb and it means to make something faster, easier, or better. For example, online learning has streamlined education. It's made it faster, easier, better. Would you agree with that? Or you might ask in a meeting, how can we streamline our operations? How can we make our operations faster, better, easier? Number 20, glaring. Repeat after me, glaring. This is an adjective, and it's when something bad is extremely obvious. It's glaring. For example, we can't hire her. She made glaring spelling mistakes in her CV. So when you look at the CV, the spelling mistakes are extremely obvious. They're glaring. So that CV is going in the garbage. Or you could say there was a glaring contradiction in his statement. The contradiction was extremely obvious. Now, do you know what a contradiction is? This is word 21, contradiction. Repeat after me, contradiction. And this is a combination of words that is nonsense because some of the words suggest the opposite of some of the others. That's a confusing definition, but listen to this simple example. She's an honest politician. Now, some people might reply back and say, an honest politician? Isn't that a contradiction? Because when you hear the word honest, an image of a politician is not what most people think of. So some people might say that the combination of words, an honest politician, is a contradiction. Here's an everyday example. You said you hate the heat, but you want to go to Hawaii. Isn't that a contradiction? Because Hawaii is very hot, but you just said you hate the heat. So that's a contradiction. Now let's keep challenging your vocabulary. You're going to add 15 advanced words to your vocabulary. Number 1, to urge. The sentence structure is to urge someone to do something. Urge is a verb, and it means to strongly advise or persuade someone to do something. For example, the lawyer urged him to take the deal. So the lawyer strongly advised him. The lawyer tried to persuade him to take the deal. The lawyer urged him to take the deal. Number 2, admit. Admit. This is a preposition. There's an alternative spelling, which is admist. Admist. So you're adding a st on the end. They mean exactly the same thing. Amid is more popular and common in American English, so that's the one I urge you to use. Now, as a preposition, this means in the middle of or surrounded by. So let me give you an example sentence. Tesla launched its new car amid a lot of publicity. So we have the launch of the new car. Now remember, amid means in the middle of or surrounded by. So you can almost imagine here's their launch of the new car, and then surrounded around that launch is all this publicity. Publicity is just media attention. So that's when we use amid. Tesla launched their new car amid a lot of publicity. Number 3, to roam. To roam. This is a great one. You can add this to your daily vocabulary because to roam, this means to move about or travel without a clear direction of where you're going. But you do that on purpose. You can think of it as an activity. So when would you want to move around or move about without a clear direction of where you're going? Well, probably when you're on vacation or when you're exploring a new area, even of your own city. So you might find a new area and then you just roam around. You go on this street and then you see something interesting and you go there, and then you see a store and then you go there. You don't have a clear direction of where you're going. Number 4, to encompass. This means that you include a lot of different types of things. For this one, think of when you go to a conference. There are many different types of things, right? There are different speakers, there are different topics, there are different people in the audience, there's different entertainment. So all of these are different things. Now, the verb to encompass just means to include. So we could say the conference encompassed many different speakers, entertainment, audience members, presentations, topics, and you can go on and list the different categories of things. The conference encompassed many different things. Number 5, mired. Mired. Look at the spelling. Now listen to my pronunciation. Mired, mired. That's the pronunciation. We use this when someone or something, like a company, is involved in a difficult situation. It must be a difficult situation. For example, the new company was mired in controversy. Was mired in controversy. They were involved in that situation. And notice I used the word controversy, which is negative. Number 6, meticulously. Ooh, that's a fun word to say, isn't it? A little bit of a challenge for you. Number 6, meticulously. Meticulously. This is an adjective. And as an adjective, it means in a way that shows great attention to detail. For example, the entire project was meticulously planned. Remember, adjectives are always optional. So I could say the entire conference was planned. But now I want to give more information about how it was planned. And I want to say with a lot of attention to detail. The entire conference was meticulously planned. So this is a positive adjective. If somebody used it on you, you would take that as a compliment. Number 7, exacerbate. Ooh, another tricky one for pronunciation. Exacerbate, exacerbate. This is when you make something that's already bad even worse. We could say this attack will exacerbate the already tense relationship between the two communities. So remember, it's a bad situation. That's why I used already tense relationship. That is not a positive relationship. So it's already bad. But then when you exacerbate, it means you make it even worse. This attack will exacerbate their relationship. Number 8, to call for. This is a phrasal verb, and you call for something to happen. And this is simply when you demand that something happens. For example, the union called for his resignation. The union called for, the union demanded. The union called for his resignation. Number 9, swift. Swift. This is an adjective. It's a fun adjective because it simply means quickly. For example, the police took swift action against the rioters. Swift action. So they acted very quickly. Swift action. Number 10, to erode. Erode. This is when you slowly reduce or destroy something. You probably know this from a scientific perspective because erosion, or when rocks erode, is when rocks naturally become smaller, smaller, and smaller, and smaller because they gradually reduce. Well, the meaning is the exact same, but instead of a rock, I want you to imagine trust. Trust between two people in a business relationship or a personal relationship as well. And I could say these budget cuts could erode the public's trust. So we have the public's trust, just like a rock, and it's eroding. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The trust is gradually decreasing. And the reason why is because of the actions of the person, the budget cuts. The budget cuts could erode the public's trust. Number 11, to highlight. This is when you want to attract attention to something specific, or you want to emphasize something specific. For example, the report highlighted the need for increased safety measures. So the report was written in a way that it took your attention to something specific. It emphasized specific information. And that specific information is we need more safety measures. The report highlighted the need for increased safety measures. Number 12, to expose. This is when you make public something bad or something wrong. So there's something wrong, and most of the time people don't want that information public, right? So when you take that wrongdoing that someone wants to keep secret and you make it public, you expose. You expose that person, or you expose the action, the bad action that that person took. For example, the report exposed government corruption. So there's government corruption. Of course, the government does not want the public to know about it, right? So when that information is made public, it's exposed. The report exposed government corruption. Number 13, fundamental. This is when something is more important than anything else. Fundamental. For example, it's one of the fundamental differences between men and women. So there are many differences between men and women, obviously, but remember, fundamental is more important than anything else. Now notice how I didn't reveal that fundamental difference. I just used it's. So you can decide what is the fundamental difference between men and women. If you want, you can try to put that in the comments below. It's the fundamental difference between men and women. What could it be? Number 14, to deploy. And you deploy resources. Resources could be people in the form of their effort and the work, their contribution, or it could be money, it could be supplies, things like that, and you deploy resources. What does this mean? When you deploy resources, it means you simply use the resources, but you use them in an efficient way, or at least that's the plan. For example, the government is meeting to discuss how to deploy the funds. So they don't know how they're going to use those resources in the best way, and that's why they're meeting. They're meeting to discuss how to deploy the funds. And finally, number 15, to pitch. You pitch an idea or a plan. And this simply means you share an idea or a plan in a way that's meant to persuade. Persuade someone to do something specific or to buy something. For example, we pitched them our strategy for how to deploy the resources. So we have a plan, an idea, and we shared it with you, but we did it in a way that we want you to say yes. We want you to accept our plan. That is to pitch. You're doing an amazing job. Let's keep going and you'll learn 15 more advanced words you can use every day. Expression number 1, one's take on something. This is simply another way to ask someone for their opinion or ideas. So if you're in a meeting, it's very common to say, what's your take on that? What's your take on that? And then that being whatever you're discussing, maybe a new idea, a new project, a new plan. And to reply, you could say, well, my take on it is, and then you simply state your opinion or your idea. We also sometimes will state our opinion or idea. For example, I think we should delay the project. And then we add, that's my take on it. That's my take on it. Number 2, to be in a position to. This is an expression that simply means to be able to or to be capable of. So you might say, we're not in a position to take on any new clients. At least that's my take on it. Or you might ask, is the company in a position to take on more debt? Is the company able to? Number 3, to be on the right track. I love this expression because it means you're making good progress on something specific. For example, you might say, we haven't solved the problem yet, but we're on the right track. So the problem still exists, but you're headed towards the solution. You're making good progress. You're on the right track. So if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll solve the problem. Number 4, to stem from. This is an excellent business or academic expression, and this means to be caused by or to come from. So you might read in an article, a lot of health problems stem from poor diet. So the health problems are caused by, stem from a poor diet. Said another way, you could say a poor diet causes health problems. But remember, we're switching them because we're using stem from, caused by. Number 5, to be a given. A given. This is something that is well known as an established fact or truth. So I might share my fact or truth. If you want to be a confident English speaker, you have to practice speaking. That's a given. It's just another way of saying that's a fact. At least that's my take on it. And said another way, I can say it's a given. To be a given that. It's a given that if you want to be a confident speaker, you need to practice speaking. Number 6, to take X into account. X is something, a noun, and that simply means to account for or to consider something. For example, when you're planning a vacation, you need to take exchange rates into account. The exchange rate, the time zone difference, the customs, the culture into account. Number 7, this is a good one, to grapple with. To grapple with. This is another way of saying to deal or cope with a difficult situation. So let's take a difficult situation. Social isolation during the pandemic. That's been very difficult. Many people are grappling with, they're dealing with, they're coping with the situation. Many people are grappling with isolation during the pandemic. Number 8, to be short on something. This simply means you don't have enough of something. For example, I'm short on time this week. Or I can't go on that vacation because I'm short on cash. I don't have enough. Number 9, to be up in the air. We use this expression to talk about a plan or an issue that's unsettled or unresolved or uncertain, up in the air. For example, my summer plans are up in the air. They're uncertain. I haven't planned them yet. Or I might say, the future of that business is up in the air. It's uncertain. Number 10, to bring someone up to speed. When you bring someone up to speed, you share the latest information with them. So let's say your colleague was on vacation and they get back and they could ask you, hey, can you bring me up to speed? Can you share the latest information? Can you bring me up to speed on the Jones project? So you could talk about a specific situation or just in general. Can you bring me up to speed? Number 11, this is a great one, a deal breaker. A deal breaker is something that causes you to abandon a plan or a commitment or a relationship. For example, I might be looking for a new job and I see one that looks really great, but then I get to the salary and it's way too low. That's a deal breaker. That causes me to abandon that plan, the plan to apply for that job. The salary is a deal breaker. We also use this a lot in relationships. You might say, she lied to me. That's a deal breaker. So you're going to end the relationship, you're going to abandon it because she lied. And that's a deal breaker. Number 12, a do-over. A do-over is another attempt to do something when your previous attempt was unsuccessful. So let's say you go to a job interview and it went terribly. You did really poorly. You could say, I wish I could have a do-over. I wish I could do the interview again. But unfortunately, most of the time we don't get do-overs. But you might be in a situation where you're in a class and the professor gave you a test and everybody did poorly on the test. So the professor might give the students a do-over. The professor gives the students a chance to do the test again because everyone did really poorly. Number 13, to come in handy. When something comes in handy, it's very useful. So this is a positive one. So let's say you're considering adding a new feature to a product you provide or a service, and you might say, oh, this new feature will really come in handy. It will come in handy. It will be useful. Number 14, to be a breeze. We describe something as a breeze when it's really easy. For example, learning English is a breeze, right? It's really easy. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on what your take on it is. Or I could say using Google Docs is a breeze. It's really easy. And then I could add using Google Docs is a breeze compared to MS Word. So in that case, I'm saying that Google Docs is easier than MS Word. And finally, number 15, to be spot on. When someone is spot on, they're 100% accurate or correct. For example, I could say the weather forecast this weekend was spot on. The meteorologist said it was going to rain on Saturday at 2 o'clock, and it rained on Saturday at 2 o'clock. He said it was going to be sunny and 25 on Sunday, and that's exactly what it was. The forecast was spot on. And now you have 50 new advanced expressions to sound fluent. Are you ready for your quiz? Feel free to go back, review the video again if you need, but if you're ready, let's complete your quiz. So here's how the quiz is going to work. You're going to see a sentence and you have to decide which expression best completes the sentence. I'll only give you a few seconds, so hit pause and take as much time as you need. So let's do this one together. Which option is it? A, B, or C? And the answer is A, bring someone up to speed. Now notice how I also completed the sentence. You can do that as well for additional practice to make sure you get the grammar correct. So those are the instructions. Now let's continue on with the next question. So, was that quiz a breeze? Let us know your score in the comments below. Now that you've already expanded your vocabulary, let's do something different. We're going to read a news article together and you're going to learn 42 English phrases. Let me read the headline. Netherlands, phone ban announced to stop school disruptions. A ban. What does this mean? When you ban something, it means that it is no longer available or allowed. No longer available or allowed. Here, the word ban is not the verb of the sentence. It's being used as the subject, the phone ban. So it's a noun. The verb in the sentence is announce. In the past simple, announce. So you can use ban as a noun or as a verb. As a verb, you could say, the Netherlands banned phones in schools. So this is the verb in the past simple. I could also say this article is about the Netherlands phone ban. So here, ban is being used as a noun. Now, you may notice also that I said the Netherlands phone ban. The Netherlands as a country is an exception and it takes an article. Countries in general don't take articles, but there are certain exceptions. The United States, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands. So keep that in mind, but make sure you don't put it on most countries because they don't take articles. Let's continue. Devices, including mobile phones, are set to be banned from classrooms to stop them from disrupting learning. Are set to be banned. When something is set to, and then you have the infinitive, it means that it is about to. For example, the party is set, and then we have our infinitive, so our verb to be. The party is set to start. Now, maybe this is in the past, so you would change this. The party was set to start at 7 p.m., but it started at 8. So this was the set time, and then this is the actual time. So set to be banned, because the mobile phones are receiving the ban. They're not the ones doing the action, they're receiving the action. So we commonly use that for our verb ban as well, to be banned. You might say, my sugar was banned in my house. To be banned. Sugar was banned in my house. Now, using an active sentence, you could say, my mom, my dad, my parents banned sugar in our house, which could be a common thing that's banned. Devices, including mobile phones, are set to be banned from classrooms to stop them from disrupting learning. When something disrupts something, it prevents it from operating or performing as usual or as expected. So I'll put that here for you, to prevent something from continuing as usual or as expected. And that's what the phones are doing in the classroom. And that's why they've been banned, to be banned. They've been banned. I've summarized all the notes from this lesson, and you can download the free lesson PDF. Simply look in the description for the link to download it. Let's continue. The initiative, so the initiative is the Netherlands plan to ban mobile phones. The initiative is being introduced in collaboration with schools and is to take effect at the start of next year. So to take effect, this is just when it will start. So you can say the initiative will start at the start of next year. In this case, start means the beginning of next year. I don't know if they mean calendar year or school year because those are different, but to take effect simply means to start being operational. So another common expression is to come into effect, and this is to become operational or to become law, because we use this a lot with policies or rules. You could say that the regulation will come into effect. So when it comes into effect and is operational, it is in fact the law. So you'll see this a lot with government, our new policy, our new tax change comes into effect on August 1st. And then they can list a specific date, or they might say comes into effect soon in the new year. It doesn't have to be a specific date. Come into effect or take effect, when it will officially start or become operational. There will be some exceptions. Now, if there is an exception, it means that certain people or certain times won't follow the policy. So the policy that phones are banned applies to everyone except the people who are exceptions. So it doesn't apply to them. So this is when a rule or policy doesn't apply. So they'll identify the exceptions. There are, including for students with medical needs or a disability. So those are two of the exceptions. And then for classes focused on digital skills. So this could be another one. You likely use the conjunction except a lot. For example, I study English every day except Sunday. So you're listing the day that doesn't apply. Sunday doesn't apply to this. Using the word exception, you could say, I study English every day. Sunday is my only exception. So here you're just using it in a different way, a shorter way, but they mean the exact same thing. Let's continue. The ban, so here they're using it as our noun. The ban is not legally enforceable. So you can't enforce it, make someone follow that legally, but may become so in the future. So become so means it may become legally enforceable, but right now it's not. Let's continue. Even though mobile phones are almost intertwined with our lives. Let's take a look here at intertwined. Intertwined means that something is closely connected and difficult to separate. We do have more of a literal definition of this. You probably have a drawer in your house where there are just lots of random cords. So if this white cord is difficult to separate from this black cord, you can say they're intertwined. They're connected and difficult to separate. Right now, they're not intertwined, but then if I mix them all together, they can become intertwined. So this is more of a literal meaning, and we do use it, especially in this situation, which does seem to happen to me. But we also have more of a figurative meaning. You might say, our lives are intertwined. So maybe this is you and your best friend, or you and your significant other, or you and a colleague even, and you are so close together. You have all of these areas that you share, and it's difficult to separate your life from your best friend's life because they're so intertwined. So we do use this a lot with very close relationships as well. Our lives are intertwined. Even though mobile phones are almost intertwined with our lives, so closely connected, they're difficult to separate. Could you imagine separating your day-to-day life from your mobile? Well, that'd be difficult because it's so intertwined. They do not belong in the classroom. What do you think? Do you agree with this statement? Share your opinion. Do you agree that mobile phones don't belong in the classroom? What do you think? Yes, I agree. No, I don't agree. And you can share the reason why, said the education minister. Students must be able to concentrate their being in the classroom. When you see there, you always have to look back at the last location, because in this case, there represents a location over there, and the last location is the classroom. Students must be able to concentrate there in the classroom and be given every opportunity to learn well. I see a lot of mistakes with this sentence structure, and it is pretty basic, I'll be honest, but I still see a lot of mistakes with it. The sentence structure is to be able to do something. So here you have your verb to be. You can conjugate your verb according to the subject and the time reference. Able does not change. It's always able, and then you have your infinitive. So you could say, we weren't able to locate the file. We weren't, because this is my verb to be, which is conjugated with my subject and the time reference, which is the past simple. And I turned it into the negative as well. We were not able to locate the file. Now, I am able to come to the party. I'm able to. So my subject, my verb, able doesn't change, and then the infinitive. Very common, very basic sentence structure here, but I still see mistakes with this, so take some time and practice this. Students must be able to concentrate. Now, must is a modal verb. So notice, after a modal verb, we don't use the infinitive. You have modal verb plus your base verb, which is just the verb without to. Students must be able to concentrate there and be given every opportunity to learn well. We know from scientific research that mobile phones disrupt this. And then we already learned disrupt. Here, disrupt is being used as a verb. They disrupt this. This is their ability to concentrate and learn well. Previously, we looked at disrupt as a verb as well, but it was in the ing form because it followed a preposition. From is a preposition. After prepositions, you have your gerund verb with ing. And here we simply have it as our present simple conjugated with mobile phones, which is our subject they. They disrupt this. They disrupt this. Various studies have found limiting children's screen time is linked to improved cognition and concentration. Okay, so limiting children's screen time, this is the action, and this is linked to, You can think of this is linked to show connection. So we have one thing, limiting children's screen time. And then we have another thing, improved cognition and concentration. If something is linked to something, it means they're connected, because this is a link. You can think of a chain link in a fence. They're connected. So that's to be linked to. So the verb here, our expression is to be linked to be linked to. Now, we generally use this expression when you want to show that one thing has an effect on another thing. So there's a cause and effect relationship. So again, our one thing, exercising, our next thing, reduced heart attacks. And I want to show there's a cause and effect relationship. Exercising causes the effect of reduced heart attacks. Exercising has been linked to reduced heart attacks. So here's the expression to be linked to. So my verb is in the present perfect. And then I have my infinitive, to be linked to. Let's continue. Other tech, including tablets and smartwatches, are also included in the ban. The government said it would be up to individual schools to agree the exact rules with teachers, parents, and pupils. This sounds a little weird to me because we don't use agree and then directly whatever you're agreeing to. Notice, because you agree to something. So I think it's just it's missing a preposition here. Individual schools to agree to the exact rules because you agree to something. You don't just agree something. I agreed stay late. This sounds weird. It does not sound correct. I agreed stay late. I agreed to stay late. Now it sounds great. This means you accepted. Your boss said, "Can you stay late?" And you said, "Yes, I can stay late." I agreed to stay late. So that's why we need this preposition here. To agree to the exact rules with teachers. Now notice the government said it would be up to be up to, and then we have a someone or a something. The individual schools, well, it represents the teachers and the administrators at the school, so technically it is a someone. When something is up to someone, it means they have the ability to make the decision. It's their decision to make. So a friend could say, "Do you want to have pizza or pasta tonight?" And then you can say, "It's up to you." It's up to you. You're saying you decide. It's your responsibility. I'm giving you responsibility to make the decision. It's up to you. You can decide if we're having pizza or pasta. It's up to you. So the government said it would be up to the individual schools to agree to the exact rules with teachers, parents, and pupils. So the schools have to decide on the rules, including whether they wanted to completely ban devices from schools. Okay, so schools have the flexibility to decide. The announcement follows a similar decision by Finland last week. If something follows something, it means it comes next. Just like if this is Sally and this is Larry, you could say Larry is following Sally. He's coming next. So something follows something, it comes next. I'll write that for you. So this means that Finland announced before the Netherlands announced, because the announcement by the Netherlands followed Finland's announcement. So first Finland announced, and then the Netherlands announced the ban. Other countries, including England and France, have also proposed banning. When you propose something, it means you suggest it. So they haven't decided, they're considering it. So when you propose something, you suggest it for consideration, to suggest something. Something for decision or consideration. They have also proposed banning mobile phones to improve learning. So propose, you may be more familiar with this word from a proposal. When someone proposes to someone, they say, "Will you marry me?" Because you're suggesting marriage, but it's the other person who gets to consider your proposal and then decide. So we use that. Will you marry me? This is, will you marry me? This is the words used when someone proposes. The traditional words. You can say other things, but this is the traditional way to propose. When someone proposes, and what are they proposing? They're proposing marriage. You don't need to say that. You don't need to say, "Oh, wow, Sally proposed marriage to Tom. Well, generally the guy proposes, but why not? A girl can propose too. But I'll say it the more traditional way. Oh, wow, Tom proposed to Sally. And you propose to someone. Did you hear that Tom proposed to Sally? So you propose marriage, but you don't need to say that. It's implied to someone. And how did Tom do that? He said, Sally, I love you. Will you marry me? And then hopefully he gave her a ring and some flowers and some other special items. And then Sally will say yes or no, or I have to think about it. And we'll consider that proposal. And that is the end of our lesson. So what I'll do is I'll go to the top and I will read it from start to finish. And this time you can focus on my pronunciation. Netherlands, phone ban announced to stop school disruptions. Devices, including mobile phones, are set to be banned from classrooms to stop them from disrupting learning, the Dutch government has announced. The initiative is being introduced in collaboration with schools and is to take effect at the start of next year. There will be some exceptions, including for students with medical needs or a disability, and for classes focused on digital skills. The ban is not legally enforceable, but may become so in the future. Even though mobile phones are almost intertwined with our lives, they do not belong in the classroom, said the education minister. Students must be able to concentrate there and be given every opportunity to learn well. We know from scientific research that mobile phones disrupt this. Various studies have found limiting children's screen time is linked to improved cognition and concentration. Other tech, including tablets and smartwatches, are also included in the Dutch ban. The government said it would be up to individual schools to agree the exact rules with teachers, parents, and pupils, including whether they wanted to completely ban devices from schools. The announcement follows a similar decision by Finland last week. Other countries, including England and France, have also proposed banning mobile phones to improve learning. Now let's keep going and you'll read a more advanced news article and you'll learn 40 English phrases. Our headline, the young workers dressing to stand out. As you can see, her outfit really stands out. Imagine there are all these other workers and they're wearing a plain white shirt and black pants. And she is wearing this very bright, colorful, and vintage outfit. She would stand out. The phrasal verb stand out, this means to be noticeable. To be noticeable in a group. So you have a group of different objects and one of them is more noticeable than the others. That object stands out. And it could stand out because of its size, it's bigger than the others or smaller, its color, or other reasons as well. So to stand out, to be very noticeable, and especially compared to other things or even people. So she stands out because of her outfit, what she's wearing. Let's continue on. Traditional thinking has generally been to dress to fit into the workplace. Here's another phrasal verb, to fit in. So the phrasal verb is to fit in, but when you specify the noun, in this case, the workplace, then we add into, to fit into the workplace. So I'll highlight all of this. So the phrasal verb to fit in is when you have a feeling that you belong or are accepted. When you're a new employee, you might not feel like you fit in, Or if you're new to a neighborhood or a sports team or any group of people, a new school, that's a great example. You might not feel like you fit in. You might not feel like you belong or are accepted. And unfortunately, a lot of my students don't feel like they fit in because of their English skills. So of course, to not fit in isn't a good feeling. You want to feel like you belong and are accepted. You want to feel like you fit in. So to fit into the workplace, a feeling of belonging or being accepted by a group. So they're saying traditionally you would wear the same clothes that your coworkers wear so you fit in. You have this sense of belonging. But this person here is doing something different. She's dressing to stand out, to be more noticeable, which could have the impact that she doesn't fit in. Let's find out. But in the pandemic era, these rules are going by the wayside. When something goes by the wayside, it means it's gone. It's no longer followed. It's outdated. And in this case, they're talking about a rule. So by saying the rule has gone by the wayside, it means nobody is following that rule anymore. So here's the definition here. Now, of course, in our modern era of technology, we could say that landlines, phones that are connected in your house, landlines have gone by the wayside. No one really uses them anymore, right? So in this case, you can use it when you use something, you stop using it, or you stop following a certain rule or practice. Monica Saleh, that's the woman here who dresses to stand out. Monica Saleh doesn't wear your average business casual clothing at the office. Instead, the 31-year-old software marketing manager has become well known for her love of rare vintage fashion at a large tech firm where she works in Indianapolis, US. Okay, vintage clothing is clothing from older decades or older generations. So from the 50s or 60s or 70s. So not from this modern time. It's from a past time or a past generation. And we can see an example of vintage clothing here. So this pattern, this color combination was very popular in, I don't know, maybe the 60s or the 70s. And this shirt was made in the 60s or 70s. And this represents vintage. And they also had this adjective here, rare. So a rare, of course, means not common, difficult to find. So it's not easy to find clothing that was made from the 60s or 70s, vintage clothing. You have to go to very special stores. So not common, not easy to find. Now let's take a look at her job title. She's a software marketing manager. Now, a lot of times I hear mistakes when students say their job title because they don't use an article. You have to use an article. I'm a software manager. I'm an accountant. So an, if you have a vowel sound, and then if you have a consonant sound. Don't forget that article. It sounds very beginner English, and you might not fit in. And you would stand out in a negative way. You would stand out because it's obvious that English isn't your first language if you make such a basic mistake like forgetting to put an article in front of your job title. So don't make that mistake. And if you do want to stand out in the workplace, be noticeable for your good qualities, then I want you to download this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. This is absolutely free. It's available on my website, so you can just look in the description for the link to download it. Absolutely free. And you can also find the link to download all the notes from the lesson in the description below. Let's continue on. Her outfits. So an outfit is a complete set of clothing that you wear. So it includes your shirt, your pants, your shoes. So it's everything that you're wearing is considered your outfit. So not just your shirt. You can only see my shirt now, but it would be my shirt and my pants. And even if I had shoes or a purse, all of that together would be considered an outfit. So her outfit, the total of all the clothes she's wearing. So in her case, the outfit would include her shirt, her pants. You can't really see it, but it looks like she has some colorful socks, her shoes, and let's say she was wearing a belt as well. That would be part of her outfit. Her outfits are a far cry from the average plain t-shirt and jeans. If something is a far cry from something else, it means it's very different from. Very different from. Very different from. So it's saying that her colleagues just wear, your plain white, gray, or blue t-shirt and jeans. That's your casual business attire, your outfit. But she wears something very different. So her outfits, what she wears, the total of what she wears is very different from other outfits. It's a far cry from. Now, one thing that my students find is that studying English is a far cry from using English in the real world. So they get comfortable studying English in the classroom, but then they get out there, they go to a party with native English speakers, or they go to a meeting or a networking event or just to work. And being in the real world and using your English, communicating with native speakers is a far cry from communicating with your teacher in the classroom. And that's why a lot of students feel like they don't fit in and they stand out in a negative way. They stand out because their accent is too strong, or they use very unnatural expressions, right? So this is how you can use this expression, a far cry from. Her outfits are a far cry from the average plain t-shirt and jeans she sees among her colleagues, and she says her bold style has become a great talking point with them. When something is a talking point, is just a conversational topic. It's something you talk about. That's all that means. So her outfits are a talking point. It's something when she sees her colleagues, they say, "Oh, wow, where did you get that shirt? Tell me more about it. What generation is it from? Who designed it?" That's how it's a talking point. So here's a quote. So this, because we have these quotation marks here, it means that this woman, what's her name again? Monica. This woman, Monica, is now saying these words. So she said, having that opportunity to break down walls. When you break down walls, it just means to eliminate them. So it's A metaphorical wall. It's saying here I am and here my colleague is, and there's a wall between us so we don't communicate easily. But if we eliminate that wall, if we break down that wall, then now I can easily communicate with my colleague. Having that opportunity to break down walls with people across different teams by talking about my outfits. This is how she breaks down the walls. So how she initiates conversation with her colleagues about her outfits is pretty awesome, she says. The company I work for is pretty large, and ever since I've been here, my notoriety has been extended through my fashion and what I wear. Being around people who might not know as much about these designers and catching their eye has always been an icebreaker. So an icebreaker is a way to initiate a conversation with someone. So if you're at a party or a networking event or even a meeting and there are a lot of new people and you've never met those people, you want an icebreaker. You want a way to initiate a conversation with someone. So at a party, an icebreaker could be a simple question. Oh, so how do you know Jane? If it's Jane's party, and you could go up to each person and that's your icebreaker. That's how you initiate conversation. How do you know Jane? How long have you known Jane? And you can talk about the host because both of you know Jane. So an icebreaker is a way to initiate, which is a way of saying start, to initiate conversation for the first time. So after you initiate that conversation, then the icebreaker is complete. All right, let's move on. Saleh is not the only person pushing back against traditional office wear conventions. Okay, when you push back against something, it means you resist it. You say, I don't agree with that. I don't want to do that. So you resist something. To resist something. So let's say your office has a new policy that says everyone must wear a suit and a tie to work. But before, you wore jeans and a t-shirt. So a lot of people could be upset about the change and they could push back against, because against is part of the expression. You push back against something, which means you say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's a good idea. That's how you push back against something. So she's pushing back against your traditional t-shirt and jeans by wearing this very vintage, rare clothing that makes her stand out, be very noticeable. So she's not the only person pushing back against traditional office wear conventions, with many showing off their unconventional office attire. Attire is another word for outfit. So you could say office attire or office outfits. Notice here, if you have outfit, you need it with an S. There, because there's more than one. Their outfits. But attire does not take a plural form, So you just keep it without the S. Their attire is inappropriate. But you would have to say their outfits are inappropriate. Remember, you have to conjugate your verb with whatever the subject is. So here, their attire, but because it's singular, it represents it. It is inappropriate. Their outfits, because it's plural, it's they. They are inappropriate, okay? But it means the exact same thing
It's just a different word for it. And remember, an outfit is the totality of your clothing, of what you're wearing. So many are showing off. When you show off, it means that you just make it known to other people. So to show off their attire on social media, well, how would you show off your attire? You would take a picture of it and you would post it on social media with a headline and a hashtag in an attempt to have it seen by a large number of people. So that's how you would show it off, it being your attire. Some workers, especially younger ones, are swapping out mundane white shirt, black trouser combos with luxe loungewear sets. All right, lots to review here. So first, let's talk about our adjectives. We have mundane. This is very ordinary, not interesting, could be a little bit boring, right? Because if it's very ordinary, not interesting, so that really probably represents boring. So a white shirt, black trousers, that's pretty mundane. Everybody wears that. So it's a little bit boring. It doesn't stand out, but you probably fit in pretty easily wearing that. Okay, so that's mundane. Now, combos is short for combination. So you can shorten it to combo. You see this a lot in fast food restaurants, McDonald's. You could have a burger with fries and a drink. That's a combo. It's a combination of 3 different items into one meal, a combo. Okay, and then luxe is short form for luxury, but in this case, we're using it as an adjective. So what do we need? Luxurious. Notice the pronunciation, luxurious. So this, as you can see, we have our lux and we just take the short form. It's not the most common, to be honest. I would personally say luxurious or luxury. I wouldn't shorten it to lux, but that's what they did here. Okay, now our phrasal verb, to swap out. Now, you swap out one thing for another thing, which means you just replace one thing for another thing. So first I had my mundane white t-shirt, but I swapped it out for this flower shirt, so I stand out. Okay, so you replace one thing with another thing. Are swapping out. Replace, I'll just say replace A with B. So white t-shirt is A, and then these luxurious loungewear sets, that's B. So you swap it out. And that's the end of the article. So perhaps if you want to stand out at work, you can consider wearing vintage clothing. That's the moral of the story here. So now what I'll do is I'll read the article from start to finish, and this time you can focus on my pronunciation. The young workers dressing to stand out. Traditional thinking has generally been to dress to fit into the workplace. But in the pandemic era, these rules are going by the wayside for some employees. Monica Saleh doesn't wear your average business casual clothing at the office. Instead, the 31-year-old software marketing manager has become well known for her love of rare vintage fashion at the large tech firm where she works in Indianapolis, US. Her outfits are a far cry from the average plain t-shirt and jeans she sees among her colleagues, and she says her bold style has become a great talking point with them. Having that opportunity to break down walls with people across different teams by talking about my outfits is pretty awesome, she says. The company I work for is pretty large, and ever since I've been here, my notoriety has been extended through my fashion and what I wear. Being around people who might not know as much about these designers and catching their eye has always been an icebreaker. Saleh is not the only person pushing back against traditional office wear conventions, with many showing off their unconventional office attire on social media. Some workers, especially younger ones, are swapping out mundane white shirt and black trouser combos for luxe loungewear sets.
Amazing job. Do you want me to make another masterclass? If you do, put masterclass, masterclass, put masterclass in the comments. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And I have another class I know you'll love. Make sure you watch it right now.